Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we've got back with us a very special guest. We have Erin Wilkins. Well, Erin, welcome to the show. It's always great to have you back.
Thank you so much for welcoming me back again.
Well, last time we sat, we talked about energy and we were just talking about this Lion's Gate portal and all of these things. And we were having a little conversation before we got started, and I had asked you, how's things going? And you started telling me about your downsizing, removing some things from your life. And I thought, that's a great topic because we go through life collecting things. Every day somehow you gather more things than you let go of, generally speaking. And whether it's energy or stuff or bills or money or whatever it is that you're collecting, you're gaining. We usually get more things than we let go of. And sometimes it not only feels good, but it is good for everything involved when you start to purge or let go or rehome or however you want to call it. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we do. We gather, we collect. And I mean, in my instance, I was running an animal sanctuary. And so I think after a while, I just realized I was collecting animals. I was scared for them to be rehomed because I'm like, what if that person doesn't take care of them? What if something bad happens to them? And I realized that in that fear, I was just compiling, and it was so much on me. Whereas every morning and every night, I've got, an hour plus of animal duties. And my animals weren't getting enough one-on-one with me, and so I was like, it's time to find new homes. And so it's been extremely hard, but extremely liberating. I just rehomed a whole bunch of animals today, millipedes and a scorpion, and just knowing that they're going to be loved and taken care of. And yet I have such a lightness knowing that there's one less thing that I have to do. Yeah.
I really enjoy our conversations because there are so few people in life that I could have a conversation where millipede, scorpion, and being loved are in the same sentence.
Yes.
So you obviously have a pretty wide spectrum of animals. How is it that you find a home for millipedes and a scorpion?
That was just a Facebook advertisement, and I had 3 people hit me up probably within 10
Oh,
minutes. So
no
I had my
kidding.
choice of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to animals, it's a great example, and it's also analogous in so many ways to other forms of collecting or holding on to. But with animals, I've always used the analogy of, feeding stray cats. You can put a bowl of milk out figuratively or, you know, literally, and the cats will come figuratively or literally. And, when you have a shelter, you're creating a space, you're putting out a light, a beacon that says, hey, I'm here to help those in need. But it's hard sometimes because there are limitations to what we can do. Even the SPCA shelters, all the the fully funded, staffed, dog shelters and animal shelters, they get full. And they come to a
Yep.
spot where like we can't take anymore. Unfortunately, they end up having to do terrible things to keep their numbers down, but it doesn't always have to be that way. I know there's horse shelters, horse rescues, and every kind of animal rescue that you can imagine. But knowing where that line is,
Yep.
it's one thing, like, I guess if you have beds or cages or kennels or whatever, you have so many to fill, and when they're filled, they're filled. But when you don't operate that way, how is it that you can tell, like, what was the signal that said, hey, I got too much going on?
Yeah, I was feeling very overwhelmed and I wasn't loving it like I
Uh,
had. So it wasn't like it felt more like a task
uh-huh.
than just an enjoyment. And I realized that while very needed after about 3 years ago going through a super narcissistic abusive relationship and that relationship ending, that in my healing process I was bringing in animals because they're not going to yell at me
Right,
and they're not going to be mean to me and they need me. And
right.
so I was able to, I almost created like a pseudo spouse with all of these animals. And I think I needed it at the time.
Yeah,
But now I've got an amazing man in my life that
nice.
loves me and treats me well. And
Uh,
I don't need those animals any longer. And I realized that it just became a task to take care of them.
that,
Because now I have a partner. So I didn't need
yeah,
my pseudo millions of animals.
right, right. No, that's a fantastic point that you made. So a lot of times I think we collect things, whether, like I said, whatever it is. Maybe it's old cars, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's, whatever it is that you find yourself collecting or holding on to. Sometimes there's a reason behind it that is either something that's missing or something that you have an abundance of, or whatever it is that causes you to maybe substitute. Just like, the old Alcoholics Anonymous, you got these guys that they're not drinking anymore, but boy, they're smoking and drinking coffee like it went out of style. They sub
Yeah.
substitute their problem one for another one. And
Yep.
it's probably healthier to smoke and drink coffee than to be drunk all the time, but it's certainly not necessarily a good answer, and then you can overdo it. What would you say is a good, it's interesting. I just interviewed a guy who wrote a book, and he was a quote unquote successful guy. And one day he realized he was totally miserable. And he had something trigger him, a conversation with a friend, a question that was posed that made him say, I hate my life. What is it that you think somebody could do to identify that maybe you're holding on to something or some things, or, even it could just be an idea, you're obsessing over people obsess over, their social media presence or whatever it is that you're doing too much of. Well,
Hmm.
what would you say would be a way that you could kind of check yourself and keep that from becoming more of a problem?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look where your time is. Like if you were to, take a time clock, draw out your hours and put it into like some sort of a graph, how much time are you allocating for these different things? And are you substituting one addiction or one drawback for another? Similar to, oh, well, yeah, I don't drink anymore, but I smoke. Well, you're not healing. You're just substituting one for
Right,
another. So there's that self-reflection of why am I doing this and asking those questions and being willing to look at the answers of
right,
why do I feel like I need this? If someone were to say, I'm going to take this away from you, what would your response be? Would you
mm,
have this violent response of like, no, you can't, I can't live without it?
yeah,
Well, no, you can't live it without food, water, air. But if
right,
we were to take your car, what's the
right,
hang up? Why is it such an issue? And so getting to that stage of, and I used to do that with my animals. You've got too many. Don't say
yeah.
that. I do not. And I was very defensive.
Right,
And then I started looking at going like, why? Let's stop and look at not only my mental health, but the health of these animals. And am I spending an adequate amount of time with them? No, I'm not. I have too many. And
uh-huh,
so taking that back and down. So, where is your time going? And if you were to ever be challenged, if you lost this, what would you do? I mean, those can be some really good indicators to really self-evaluate.
Absolutely. I think something like journaling can be really important because
Yep.
you can, like you said, if you start tracking your time, like people say, oh, yeah, I really don't do that much. And then that's always like when I consult people or whatever people are asking me about, solving a problem, I generally go to, well, start writing down what you're doing and be honest and track your time, whether you're figuring out how much sleep you're getting or what you're eating or how much time you're spending doing any given task. Even like your computer or your phone nowadays will tell you how much screen time you're using as maybe a wake-up call.
Yep.
These are all things to kind of give you a visual on where you're at on the map. Maybe that's helpful. I think it was you that way back years ago when you were talking about muscle testing.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a lot of chiropractors and naturopaths will do muscle testing where you hold an item by your heart chakra, stick your right arm out and they'll push. If you're allergic to whatever that is you're holding, your muscles do go weak. Your muscles also retain a memory of everything you've eaten or been exposed to, as well as the positive and negative energy. So I made some rods that I use in muscle testing that open and shut to the degree of allergy to a food, if I'm doing nutrition work, or if it's a positive or negative energy, or if you're just trying to find water, they do water witching too. But
Nice.
yeah, so I'll use those. I employ them a lot if people are trying to get off of traditional pharmaceuticals and they need me to make them a medication out of herbs to treat anxiety or depression or allergies. And then I'll muscle test them on the oils so I know exactly how much to put in. So it's a pretty exact, and the muscle testing will reveal it's personal. So it's not just like, oh, here you've got allergies, take this, but
Right.
this is what your body has said that it needs at this time to support itself. So it's letting the body speak through the rods.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was getting at. It's kind of like it's a direct communication to your body or maybe even your subconscious, your spirit, because like we don't always talk. Like a lot of times people will bury things and they don't want to hear about it, they don't want to see it, or they don't want to acknowledge a certain thing. And sometimes if you were to do that and ask yourself, is this good for me? Or whatever it is that you're doing to get a bearing a little bit more, I think that is possible to be a good little tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've used them even when I've showed the power of words and the power of thought, that you don't even have to speak something, but when you're thinking it and you're holding that within your body, what it does. And I'll point the rods at their head and I'll say, hey, think of something positive. Do
Uh-huh.
you think of something negative? And the rods will fly open and shut. And so it's a very in your face object lesson to see, like,
Yeah.
this is what these words are doing to me. If you're
Yeah.
creating this negative energy inside your brain and inside your body all the time.
And people don't realize the impact and power of words.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it's like I forget the guy's first name, but the Japanese guy Emoto who did all the work with
Oh,
water
yep. With
and
water.
photographed crystals, water being frozen after certain words were said or music was played. And variation of these crystals was so telling that when something was beautiful or positive, the crystals were like what you would visualize a snowflake to be perfect and unique and special. But when negativity was put forth, the it was actually very dystopian and weird and
Mm-hmm.
twisted and dark. And you're like, whoa. And then you think, oh, wait a minute, we're made of water.
Yep.
Maybe that's important, to focus on good things and keep your words positive instead of, complaining and saying negative things all the time. I think it's important. Like, we're kind of bouncing around a little bit, but it seems to be a thread that holds all this together.
Hmm.
I was sharing with you a little bit about a medicine that I've sat with called Combo, and it's all about a medicine that's derived from a frog. It's actually a poison, a venom that the frog uses to protect himself and keep from being eaten. And if you put it into your body in a particular setting, it'll go through your body and you feel it going around, like literally going from your head, zipping around your head, and then it'll go down your arms and up through your chest and down into your legs. And you feel this like almost like a little, I don't know, like a little Pac-Man energy just zipping around, and it'll stop in a certain spot, like where you maybe have a problem, or maybe where an energy is being held up. Maybe it's on a chakra or some energy spot that you have. Maybe it's a meridian or whatever you call these, these places in your body where things gather. And then afterward, you throw up, or you you purge yourself in some way, and then after that your whole mental outlook changes. And the first time I did it, when I did it, a cycle of 3 sessions, and when I was done, I felt so driven to remove certain things from my life. And this was right at the time I got diagnosed with cancer, so I needed to make some big changes. And I got rid of my employees. I got rid of my office and warehouse, moved my business back home. I composted 200 pounds of cannabis or more. I disconnected from 98% of the relationships in my life and cleared a path for amazing things to happen. What's your thoughts on like the negative side of holding on to too many things, and then the converse of that?
Hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber-only episodes that we offer to the supporters, and for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
Yeah, it hurts you. And I think a good analogy, this is what I try to think of when I feel like I'm grabbing something too tightly. If you were just to take your hand and make a fist and push your nails into your hand and keep squeezing and squeezing, eventually your nails are going to cut you. They're going to grow through your hand. You're going to be injured. And then you lose the loss of that hand. But when we open and just be willing to let go or hold things, let things come and go as they will. There's just a freedom in that, but it also benefits us in that we're not becoming hurt. So it accelerates and helps that healing process.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you're kind of a unique practitioner or healer or facilitator, whatever you call yourself. I don't know. All you guys have different titles and terms, and I'm not really into that, but you're a person that helps people.
Yep.
That's kind of the way I break it down. You have so many different modalities that you work with, more than most of the people that I know that help people. How often do you think in some way that holding on to something or things, whether they're physical, spiritual, emotional, whatever,
Mhm.
is involved in the source of a problem. And the reason I say that is because, we talk about Western medicine, and generally it's very symptomatic and allopathic and linear, and it says if this, then that, and we're going to get to stop this problem, maybe cause a bunch more problems, but that's okay. Where a holistic approach is more, well, let's get to the source of the problem and maybe make a
Mhm.
change that will cause that problem to not be there anymore.
Yeah.
And I know that's the way that you approach a problem when somebody comes to you. How often do you think that in some way the cause of the problem has to do with holding on to things?
Usually most of it is,
Yeah.
especially with like the adults that a lot of times with kids, they're just having a reaction to something going on around them or that their parents are doing. But yeah, with adults, it usually is. And it's also very hard for them to let things go. And, healing never really happens. I mean, I even had one guy that came to me for weight loss, and I said, well, we got to you got to be eating right, because
Right.
weight loss is
You're
a
definitely
byproduct.
holding on to some stuff.
Yeah, literally. But he wasn't willing to let go of things. And
Yeah.
so he called me after 1 week, said, well, I lost 9 pounds. And I said, well, there you go. You're eating better. So you're losing weight as a byproduct. And he's like, I can't do it anymore. I need my fried pig. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
well, there you go. But he wasn't willing to let that go for
Yeah.
the ultimate, which was I'm feeling better and I'm losing weight. And
Yeah.
people I find are they don't like change. They don't like considering things that are maybe outside the box from what they've been taught. And it's almost like this imprint on their brain where they struggle to let go. Most of the people that are the worst clients that I've had that aren't willing to let go and be healed are all in the medical field.
Really?
And they've been programmed and like, oh yeah, I take 5 allergy pills, I've got all these allergies. I'm like, well, don't you
Yeah.
think it would be best to eat good and
Right.
support your immune system? Oh no, that's too hard, so I just take
Yeah.
all these pills. I'm like, but you're
Yeah.
making yourself sick. So
No, you're so right. My dad, when he was alive, was like that. He had a medicine cabinet. I was like, what the hell, Dad? And he ended up dying a very early age, and it was so preventable, and all those things, these habits and things like that could have easily prevented it.
yep, absolutely.
So when obviously it comes down to choices
Yep.
and what's important, and I guess that's what makes kind of going to a Western medicine so easy, because they just kind of say, well, do this, and then that's it. You can follow your doctor's orders and do what they say. And if it doesn't work out, well, it's the doctor's fault. It's never going to be your fault. A lot of people don't take agency and kind of own their own choices that way. But
No.
would you say, I mean, I suspect that everybody is probably holding on to something that they too much, maybe
Yep.
maybe there's a healthy amount of something that we hold on to, and we feel better when we do it, so we start doing it more and more, and eventually it crosses that line from being a good thing for you to maybe being a little too much. And I,
Mm-hmm.
I talk about this a lot on the podcast, in that anything in excess can be unhealthy, even water, even
Yep.
oxygen. You can get too much, and at one point you can have a toxicity to it. So would you say that there's a way or a practice or a tool or something that people could try or execute or use to help them first know if maybe there's something that you're hanging on to too much, or to help to say, well, that's too much, I'm gonna let it go? And one of the tools that I use is I call it the big scale. And when I'm being honest with myself about, whatever it is, or even just in general living, and I take the time to do it, it's just like a mindfulness exercise of, what are you doing right now, and being aware of that and acknowledging it, taking an action or an activity or whatever it is, a thing, and putting it on the scale and saying, is this helping me get towards my goals? Is this helping me be happier? Whatever it is I'm trying to do or not. And there isn't any middle ground. It's either helping you or it's hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're honest about that, that generally will answer all your questions.
Yep.
For you, not for anybody else, but for you, because your goals and your actions are unique. Can you think of another tool or a way that people could help themselves to first avoid the problem as much as possible, or second, help to correct the problem if you already have it?
Yeah, I mean, I think sitting back and being honest is the first step. We tend to not like to just sit with ourselves and look in a mirror and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to see something that's ugly and awful. And so we tend to really try to coat that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the scale's good, or, just drawing out, if this was to be taken from me, would I be okay?
Yeah.
And monitor your response. I know that, for a while I was even coming back from work every day and having a glass of wine. Well, my rationale was, it's fine. It's one glass. I'm not getting drunk.
Yeah.
Um, I need it. And then I started being like, well, I need it. I deserve it. And then
Right.
it's like, but why?
Yeah.
Because red wine is good for you, but is it good every single day? No, it's
Yeah.
not.
Right.
And I realized that
More importantly, the why. Like, why am I taking it? Am I
why?
taking it for my health,
Yep,
or am I taking it because it helps me feel better and not deal with something I don't want to deal with?
absolutely. And I think that's where it was going with me, was like, oh, back home from work now. And so I just don't want to think about anything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to relax. I'm like, but why do I need that wine to relax? I should be
Right.
able to just relax on my own. And
Yeah.
so being able to be like, I don't like my why anymore. And so I'm going to take that away.
Yeah.
And, and then as I took it away, I was like, I don't like this. I want this. I deserve it. And then it's like, okay, then I've made the right decision.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. One of my markers in life is if it's difficult and I don't really want to do it, it's probably the thing I need to do.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I don't know why we're programmed that way, but we tend to kick and scream away from the thing that's most important that we spend our time with. Well, Erin,
Yep.
it brings me great joy to hear that you've got a fulfilling relationship, and I can foresee a lot of happiness and joy in your future as a result. I hope that it grows and gets better and better. Do you have a thought that you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
I think we talked a little bit about something that's been very much on my heart lately, is that, we always feel like to get involved in a relationship, we need to be healed 100%. And I found that when we go into a relationship with true love of each other and wanting the best for that other person, that in itself does the healing. And so you're healed through the love, not the other way around. Like, I'm going to love myself until I heal and then I can have a relationship. And if there's anyone that's struggling with, like, I have to be healed first, realize that when you do find that love in whatever form, that's what does the healing.
I love that. Love is the answer.
Love is the answer. Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Well, I really love that. And I think that, the perfection of humanity is our imperfection. And I think if we can embrace that and keep our focus on doing better and keeping our hearts in that love, I think you stay on that path. So it's always a treat having a conversation with you. I'm very happy to hear about your progress and where you're going, and looking forward to continuing.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, this has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine. I want to thank all of our listeners for making this show possible, and we will see you next time. This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.